If you've not taken a look at notebooks in Microsoft 365 Copilot for a while, or you're a new user, you might have missed just how much effort Microsoft is putting into making this experience more helpful and more usable. We have a bunch of new capabilities, both for general release users and for those of you in the Frontier program, that you're going to want to know about to get the best from this Copilot feature. Let's take a look. My name is Nick DeCourcy. I'm a Microsoft 365 consultant who specialises in AI adoption for small and medium-sized businesses. I'm also a Microsoft MVP for Microsoft 365 Copilot. If you're interested in keeping up with AI advancements, make sure you get subscribed to the channel and drop this video a like so you get to see more from me in the future. And if you're interested in working with me, check out the links down in the video description to get in contact. Notebooks is a tool within Microsoft 365 Copilot that enables us to silo information into logical strands. So for example, you can keep your work on Project A separate from your work on Project B. A notebook can hold references to assets from across Microsoft 365, as well as your chats and AI instructions. They can be a great way of segmenting your work or that of your team into the different components you actively think about. You access notebooks from the left rail in the Microsoft 365 Copilot app, and the first thing you might notice, if you've looked at this before, is the entire experience has had a visual refresh. I have all of my references over on the left, I have this nice summary in the middle, and I have my chat over on the right. And one of the first things that I've heard people kind of give negative feedback on around this is they don't like that chat is kind of constrained over here, but actually I have the ability to move around how big or small my chat experience is depending on what I'm doing. So don't feel limited by the fact that it turns up, I think by default it's kind of this size. Don't feel limited by the fact that it's over there. You could actually expand it out depending on what you want to do. And in this pane in the middle, by default what I arrive with is this overview, which is an overview of my notebook. It's AI generated, it is read only, but I can go ahead and kind of look at what's going on in my notebook and get an update from the different references there. One of the things that was a limitation when I first started using and looking at notebooks was that you could only actually have 20 references. Now this is expanded to you can actually have 100 references that are grounding within your notebook. And you can actually add more than 100, except only the first 100 are used for grounding. So I don't really know why we would want to do that, but you can add a whole bunch of things in here. You can see the different file types, we can upload stuff, we can get stuff from OneNote, so there's really been an expansion on what we can do with grounding content and references within the context of notebooks since it first arrived. Recently, we've also had the addition of this quick create option. One of the things I can quick create from here, or the only one I can see in this particular user account right now, is audio overview, which will create an audio overview of the notebook. Another one I've seen pop up here, but for some reason isn't showing right here, is study guide, which I can create in context of all of the references I've got here. But also, if you've created any pages within the context of your notebook, you can view them from here. And you can obviously, as it's a Copilot page, you can go ahead and edit in here as well. And the last thing that was initially promised for notebooks but didn't turn up when they first arrived was sharing. And now you can see I can come up here and I can share. I can share with members of my team by name or by email. And so I can share my notebook content. It will share my references. It will share things like if I've got custom instructions in here, so the notebook will work the same for everyone else, but they won't be able to see my chats. So if there are chats that I've had with my notebook, then they won't be able to see those. Those that live over in chat are private to me. But as you can see, there's been some quite significant updates. And then, if you're in Frontier, there's a rather large selection of additional capabilities that are currently being previewed, some already with intended GA dates. Take a look at the blog post linked in the description for full details on this. Obviously, with anything Frontier, it's a bit of a moving feast, but at the very least this gives you some idea of where Notebooks is headed, with some of this stuff arriving for all by around May 2026. One of the big changes here is that I can actually quick create a lot more things. There's that study guide that I didn't see before. I'm not sure why that didn't show up there. I can create that, but let's take a look at mind map. This is one of the new things that I'm able to do. So I click on that and it's going to start to create a mind map from the references that are in my notebook. And within just a couple of minutes, I get this nice mind map created. You can see up here there are some notes about what's going on with this while this is in Frontier, that these are only retained for 30 days and they remain private. They're not within the scope of shared notebooks. If I want to export, I can export it. It creates a PNG of what I'm seeing on screen. But if I go ahead and click here, you can see that actually I can expand this out and see the different concepts that are within my notebook. And it will explain a bit more if I click on an element. So this is a nice feature, obviously very much indicated as being in preview, but certainly a nice feature that they're moving into here. In Quick Create, I also have the option of accessing my agents, my Microsoft 365 agents, for creating different types of assets. So let's go ahead and take a look at creating a presentation. So you can see that I get this note saying, please stay in the chat while your request is being worked upon, which is interesting because usually you can move away from the PowerPoint agent, I believe. But you can see I've got my PowerPoint agent indicator down here that I'm working in the context of that agent, just as I would be if I was in chat. And this will take me through a similar process, or in fact exactly the same process as if I was just to ground this on a set of documents in chat and then ask the PowerPoint agent to create a PowerPoint slide deck for me. And after a few minutes, the agent has created a PowerPoint slide deck that I can't edit here, but I can open in PowerPoint if I want to. Now, the one thing that I will say is that putting these agents, which are known to take a very long time to do what they do, under a button that says Quick Create, in my opinion, kind of stretches the credulity of the word quick a little bit. But I think that's a minor point, and you know, these things do move around, so we'll see where it ends up. But it's certainly useful to be able to do this within the scope of a notebook, and perhaps there are project updates that you're making to a notebook all the time and you want to update the resources related to it, so you just go ahead and say, okay, create a new slide deck. And obviously you also have the option for a document or a worksheet as well. If I return to the kind of default view of the notebook, another thing that I can do is if I run I'm going to run a prompt from over here. It doesn't really matter what that prompt is, and I just want to get an output from Copilot. Okay, so once I've got that output, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, I want to edit this in pages, and it's going to bring this page over here, and I can obviously go ahead and edit this. But I can also now say to Copilot, make the abstract shorter. It's going to go ahead and run that. And Copilot now has the ability to edit the page that you have open in much the same way that Edit with Copilot in Word has the ability to edit on the page in Word there. One of the other additions here in Frontier is that I have more options when it comes to my references. So I can now add meetings. I don't think I have any meetings in this particular demo account, but I do have some sites. So if I wanted to add this Project Breadcrumbs site, for example, I could go ahead and I could add this in, and then that entire site is now a source for this notebook, which is really neat. And a final big improvement is that I can actually now add groups as targets for sharing my my notebook. So previously I had to do it by user, and I would manage a whole list of users in here. But now being able to add a group, that's kind of consistent with the way Microsoft 365 works elsewhere, in that I can have a group manage that group and then target resources on that group. So that is coming Frontier as well, and will be coming to the generally released product. So overall, we can see that Microsoft is doing a huge amount of work on improving notebooks, and I'm certainly excited to see a lot of these capabilities come to general availability and then see what comes to Frontier next. Microsoft 365 Copilot is constantly evolving with new features and capabilities, just like the ones I showed you today. But its value isn't in this list of updates. What really matters is how much it can help you to get done. Since Copilot launched, I've been helping businesses turn teams with new licenses into power users, delivering real business value. Now, I'm running a training program you can join as an individual. Find out more at the links down in the description and get signed up for Get Work Done with Microsoft 365 Copilot. Or, if you need training or adoption support for your whole team, check out my other services. Lastly, there's a couple of other places notebooks have been turning up that makes them even more useful that I think we should take a look at. Now, back in Copilot Chat, this is not so much a notebook feature as a chat feature, but it is an important addition when it comes to notebooks, and that is that I can now ground my chat on a specific notebook. So you can see here I've got that grounded on that Project Apex notebook, and this is really helpful because I'm taking that entire notebook as an asset and I'm using it much as I would use like a SharePoint site or something as a grounding source, and I'm doing that from chat. So that is a really powerful addition that shows good integration between notebooks and chat and our other Copilot features. And lastly, the same is true from OneNote. Within OneNote, I have access to my Copilot notebooks, so I can work with notebooks within OneNote. But in addition to this, I could also work with my OneNote notes within the context of these notebooks. So say I've got this demo page here, I'm going to right click on it and say add to my RFP response Apex notebook. It's been added there. If I come up here, you can now see this demo page is in there. So it really gives us a flow of how we can work with our personal notes and then work with them in the context of notebooks as well. But even with these obvious integrations, one of the big questions I often get asked is how notebooks should really be used, and especially how they fit in against a backdrop of outwardly similar tools like OneNote or Loop. The first thing I'll say is don't let the name notebook deceive you. It's a really bad name in my opinion, as this feature absolutely does not function like any notebook I've previously used. There is literally another product in Microsoft 365 that has notebooks that we just looked at, and logically what you really get here is a binder if we want some kind of like physical world anchor to explain it, as you bring together diverse references that support your work. I think we can largely thank Google and Notebook LM for this confusion. However, once you get past the confusion caused by the name, all of us have work processes that fit well into what notebooks do, whether it's projects or events or a group you're managing or even something you're learning. Creating a source of truth from a wide variety of assets and then working within and with those resources is pretty much a relevant use case to every single knowledge worker. And unlike a traditional physical binder, where if a resource is changed, that copy you printed and hole punched would stay static, with notebooks, you're referencing instead of copying, and those assets from across Microsoft 365 stay fresh. Your sources are always up to date, even if the outputs in terms of chats or pages stay static, so that you've got that record of your ongoing work going forward. And now we're seeing more logical integration between notebooks and notes you might hold in OneNote, for example. There's more logical flow of how your thoughts might evolve from the personal to the project to the final product. I don't think that road is entirely built yet, but it's certainly a lot clearer than it was. So I'm very excited about what I'm seeing with notebooks. I certainly thought this was a bit of a lackluster feature when it first turned up, but now I think it is becoming a lot clearer where Microsoft is going with this. How are you using notebooks, and what do you think of these capabilities? Start that conversation down in the comments. And thanks for watching through to the end. Until the next video, bye bye.